So you see what has happened to the small child? The whole of its life, for children especially, Santa Claus is something which they like, right? But he had even used the mask of Santa Claus. What he did was, in the beginning, he had just presented the child with all these animals and masks of Santa Claus and all. This child was not afraid of it. But afterwards, the second time what he did, whenever he used to present these animals or these masks, behind the child, he used to hit a big pipe with a hammer. Because of that loud sound, the child was afraid of it. That became a conditioned response. Means, afterwards, what happened as the child grew, whatever came into its environment, the child started fearing. Just imagine the life of, for him it is an experiment. But what happened to the life of the child? Could he reverse back what harm he had caused to the child? He could not. Okay? So that is why we say when researchers are conducting experiments or your research studies on subjects, we have to also look into whether we are really causing an harm, or even if you do something, whether it is reversible, whether you can reverse back the harm, whether you can do any efforts to reverse it. Otherwise, we are not supposed to conduct. So that is where somewhere around these 1950s to 70s, such experiments were done. And because of the effect of these experiments and human rights laws, the research ethic codes came in. Now, you just see, we have these laws now when we speak about research ethics. One, the human right says respect for every individual. So that is why we all have this law of informed consent in research ethics. When we are taking students from schools or very young age students, we are supposed to take the consent of the guardians or the parents if they are being involved. Okay? Now, one of my student conducted a research on juveniles. Okay? Who are juveniles? Juvenile delinquents. ಬಾಲಾಪರಾಧಿಗಳು ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಲ್ವಾ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಮಕ್ಕಳು. There are different types of crimes they have done, from pickpocketing and then involving in drug addiction and all that. But conducting research on these children was so difficult. He took nearly 7 years only for data collection. Why? Because if you have to even administer a tool to the student, you cannot just meet the student. One thing is that information is confidential, identifying because they don't let out name of these students. Okay, and then parents do not want you to come and question these children. And then they are not kept in jails. We have this what you will say, Bal Mandiras. Okay, and these children, juvenile delinquents, are kept in Bal Mandirs. And they have to be kept in Bal Mandirs only for 30 days. After that, they are sent to their homes. Okay, so it was very difficult to conduct research on them. And then you are giving them or asking them any question. You are giving them a tool for answering. You will have to go to the social welfare department. They just first go through the tool, see what type of items you are asking, and if it is affecting the student, then they will tell you to remove those questions. You are not supposed to ask the questions, even though if they are part of your tour also. Then you will have to remove those questions. All this is done because of these laws of research ethics. Okay. There is another experiment called the Harlow's monkey experiment. This was on an animal only. I will not go with the video. I have the video here, but I will not go with the video. I will just tell you what the experiment was. This was about proving the attachment theory. What is attachment? Harlow took up an experiment where he said the children or young infants get attached to the mother. Here he took a monkey for the experiment. The experiment was, he said, monkey gets attached to its mother because it gets food from the mother. You agree with it? Why do infants get attached to mother? Because they get food from the mother. That is what was the attachment theory. But he proved it wrong. What experiment he took was, he took two, dolls actually, not the real monkey. A small monkey was left into a cage. There were two dolls. One doll was made up of mesh, okay, appeared like a monkey. There was another doll which was a soft doll actually, okay, which appeared like a real monkey. This monkey straight away went to, which one do you guess? It went to the mesh monkey or to the soft doll monkey? It went to the soft doll monkey. But where was the bottle of milk kept? The bottle of milk was kept with the meshed monkey. Now, what will be your guess? Which will the baby monkey think is the mother? The mesh monkey with milk or the soft doll monkey? Soft doll monkey again? Or the mesh monkey with the milk, because the baby monkey gets milk from the mesh monkey there. You have to think a little.
We'll drink milk from the mesh monkey again, come and rest with the soft dog.
Yeah, that is what happened. It used to go, drink the milk and again come back and rest with the soft monkey only again. Means, and afterwards what he did, he again presented it with a doll actually, a horror doll. So when the monkey was afraid, it did not go to the mesh monkey, but it went to the soft doll again. Your understanding? Means what he proved was attachment is not just because of food. Attachment maybe is because of the care, the security feeling which it gets. Your understanding? So this was the attachment theory. He did this experiment. But what happened to the small monkey there? All its life, because he was at the very beginning, he had detached the monkey from the mother. You're getting it? A small monkey getting detached from the mother for the whole of the life, he did not learn anything. Okay? So this was one very famous one. There is another one, milligram experiment. Just look at these words, you can go through in the internet, they are available. Next slide. This is another one. This was with the human beings. This was a 1968 experiment done by a teacher in the school. This is called the blue eyes, brown eyes experiment. Okay? What is this blue eyes, brown eyes experiment? The teacher categorized the group of students into two. Students who are having blue eyes and students who are having brown eyes. And she put some conditions. What were the conditions? She discriminated them. She said, you both should not play together. Means children with blue eyes play together, children with brown eyes. They don't mingle with each other in the class, though they sit together in the same class. Then, the other one is, brown-eyed student to sit behind in the class, in the last benches, and blue-eyed students to sit in the front. You're getting it? Then, brown-eyed students to use paper cups to drink water. Okay? But in the beginning, initially, these brown-eyed students resisted it. They said, though they were small children, they resisted and they asked her, why are you differentiating us based on our eye color? But later on, she lied to them. She said one statement. She said, you heard of melanin? Melanin is a pigment, skin coloration, right? She said, people with more, melanin is linked with intelligence. That is what she lied to them. More the melanin, less the intelligence. After she said this statement, students stopped resisting. Okay? And then what was the result? Brown-eyed students were later on seeing that they became very timid, and these blue-eyed students were trying to dominate over these brown-eyed students. Okay? So this is another one study which a teacher had done in the school. Means whether to see obedience and all these can be induced. Okay? So because of all this, we have this ethical guidelines which called as an Urban West Code Ethical Guidelines for Research. in order to protect the human subjects from exploitation by scientists and researchers. There are 10 basic elements which are there in this code. This is the base for any research ethics. Okay? So what are the 10 elements in this code which form the ethics base for any researcher? One thing is consent is very much essential. And this consent should not be forced upon. It should be a voluntary consent of the participant subjects in the research, which every researcher has to seek. The second is the results of the experiment must be for the greater good of the society. Only if out of the result there is something good for the society, only then you can take up the research. Then human experiments should be based on previous animal experimentation. Straight away any research, even I showed you the attachment theory. That was to prove attachment on human beings, but it was first conducted on animals. So this code also says any experiment, whether psychological, behavioral or social, take it up first on animals, then on human beings. Then experiment should be conducted by avoiding any suffering. Any suffering means either physical or mental or any physical injury not to be inducted into any participant. Then the next code says no experiment should be conducted if it is believed to cause any disability or any death. There was another study which was done by language for language learning. You heard of Vygotsky or Chomsky? Chomsky says that in the brain there is an LAD. What is LAD? A language acquisition device. What he says is, this language acquisition device, only if it is activated within the first 5 years, language can be learned. Means, for 5 years, you do not expose a human child to any language, then the whole of his life, however much you try, you cannot teach him a language. Okay? If you want to prove this through an experiment, how can you take up an experiment? This theory is put forth by Chomsky. Yes? I want to test. How can I take the experiment? You are all researchers. Yes? Master degree you would have learned how to conduct research. Should I take an experimental research, survey research? What type of research? An experimental research? Yes? How can the experiment be conducted? Don't think whether it is ethical or not. Just tell me how an experiment can, how this can be tested.
To teach a set of children different languages between that age group, and one more set not teaching the language for the first 5 years.
Okay.
Then based on that, how it.
Okay. This is the way we researchers have to conduct an experiment if we have to test this theory, right? Means have two groups. One group before 5 years, as she said, you can teach one language or you can teach many languages to the group, or you can have 3 groups also. One group having only one language. It depends on what you want to test. The second group may be taught 2 or 3 languages, and there is a third group which is the central part of your experiment. Do not teach them or do not even expose them. Means they shouldn't even hear to a language. Don't expose them to any type of language for the first 5 years. Okay? If this theory is true, what will happen to the group of students who are experimental? ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ 5 ವರ್ಷ ಕಲಿಸಲಿಲ್ಲ ನಿಜ ಆದರೆ ಆ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಡಿವೈಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಯಿತು, ಆಮೇಲೆ 5 ವರ್ಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಅಂತ ಚಾಮ್ಕೀಸ್ ಥಿಯರಿ ಟ್ರೂ ಆದರೆ ವಾಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್? Language is key for communication. Language is key for social skills, for interaction among human beings, for learning. Any part of life, you know how important language is. So can you test this? No. We can't test. we can't conduct an experiment, but this they have tried to prove. You might have heard of this wolf boy. ಕೇಳಿದಿರಾ? ಈ ಥರದ ಒಂದು 2-3 cases they have where when they were young infants they have gone into the forests. Okay, some 20-25 years later they were caught by some human beings. They have tried to teach them language. Okay, whatever strategies they have used, later on they have not even succeeded even a little bit to teach them any language. They could make some sounds, that's all, but they were not able to use any language for communication, not even understand any language or speak any language. Could you consider this for this theory?
No, but instead they have learned how to interact with the nature and animals.
Yeah, that is being learned. Interacting, they could make different sounds like the wolves. That is why he was called the wolf boy. But he could not learn a language after that. You are understanding? So in such cases, though we know there is a theory, we cannot conduct an experiment to prove it because it is unethical. The life of, even you take a single boy or a girl to experiment this, the whole life of that girl or boy is gone. You are understanding? So this is what, so if you are causing any disability or any physical damage, we are not supposed to take up such experiments. That is why when you heard that lady in the beginning in the video, she told, if that experiment, little Albert experiment is to be taken today by Watson, he would not be allowed to take up that particular experiment. Then, if there are some risks involved, then you have to prove that those risks involved exceed the benefits. Then adequate facilities also should be taken to protect the subject. I told you in the beginning itself, anonymity or keeping them away from physical injury, all those measures should be taken by the researcher. And one more thing, whenever you are conducting experiment, it should be taken up by qualified scientists, in our case, qualified researchers only. Then, subjects should be able to end their participation at any time. This is one more thing. Many of the time we observe PhD students or researchers, you have a pre-test, post-test experimental study. Yes? Before you give them any treatment or any experimentation, suppose you have given them a pre-test. You have to give the post-test and you have to check whether there is a difference between pre-test and the post-test, and you have to see the effect of whatever treatment you have given, right? So what researchers do, you always force the student who have undergone a pre-test to continue all through your treatment, whether it is for 2 months or 3 months, and then you force them to take the post-test because they have taken the pre-test. Can you do that? According to the code of ethics, you have to give them the liberty to go out of your experimentation at any time they want. Okay? So that you cannot force. So the code is experiments, the subjects should be able to end their participation in your experimentation, or they can go out of your research at any particular time they want. Then whoever is the researcher must be prepared to terminate or end the experiment if there is any disability or injury or death likely to occur during the experimentation. These are the 10 codes or ethical guidelines given by the Nuremberg Code. This code came out because of some experimentations during the 1960s and 70s. Okay. There is again a declaration by Helsinki. This is for the medical community. This also, I will not go in detail. If you are interested, just to go through this declaration. Now, as researchers, keeping this in view, if you are conducting research, just look into whether your own practices in research, you are violating any of this, or do we compromise on any of these ethical standards? That is a question to be put when you are conducting your research. Just run through, there is one slide. One more thing here. Being ethical, when I speak about it, you have heard of cooking up data? What do you mean by cooking up data?
False data.
Adjusting the data as per.
Many times they really don't go into the field and collect data. They just sit in one place and then get the tools filled, or even without that they just put the score and then data is cooked up. Okay. There is one more person here. This is a very big scientific fraud. You just put the name Staple. Okay. His name. He was actually from Tilburg University, he was a professor, but later on he resigned and all that. But put this word Staple. This word Staple name is synonymous with fraud in research. He had taken up so much research, and then even research students under him were trained to cook up data. He came out with so many theories, but all his work was later found to be on cooked up data. Okay. Okay. So his name became synonymous with this scientific misconduct. See, this was one study. What result he came out was, carnivores are very selfish. Okay. There are other two names you see. He had co-workers, Roos Wong and Marcel Zillenberg. They also said carnivores are more selfish than vegetarians. Okay? But then later on in 2015, this retraction watch, they reported this, and then many of his co-workers. Earlier in the presentation, I was seeing the last slide there. Sir was telling you, like, you come to know that somebody is violating ethical conduct. Being a co-worker, you will have to report that. Okay, that was what happened in the Staples case, where this scientific misconduct of giving out results and giving out suggestions and policies making based on this cooked up data and all that, a red flag was raised, and then okay. How you can, once you are into research, you will be able to recognize these cooked up data. Sometimes you feel, you know that this data is too ideal, it is too true to, sometimes you will know, it looks like an idealistic data, means you want to prove something, then data will be cooked up in such a way that they will get that particular result of what they want to prove. Okay? So such type is again an unethical research. Just go to the next slide. Do better. Even 2-3 slides in there. There is something called ethical dilemma. You know what a dilemma is? What is dilemma? Dissonance anta kelidira. Andre, something you know is moral and something you know you should not be done. But sometimes you will be in a dilemma, idu sarina, idu madboda, madalla. This dilemma, ethical dilemma, I always give an incident. As somewhere in my school days, I have read about this story. Okay, there was a sannyasi who was meditating in a forest. During his meditation, a man came running to him. Then he said, I will just hide behind you. Hinde eno forest ali mara ide, idu hinde bachitkoltini anta helತಾರೆ. You have to protect me anta. So what the sannyasi does, he said, okay, you want to hide behind, hide anta anbiಟ್ಟು ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡಿ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗಿ ಬಚ್ಚಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. He doesn't know who he is, but he will promise that he will not let out that the person is there anta. After some time, there are two soldiers who come on a horse, and they ask the sannyasi, did you see anybody running this side anta? ವಾಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ದ ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ ಡೂ? ಸೋಲ್ಜರ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನರ್ಥ? ಕಳ್ಳನೋ ಯಾರೋ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಬಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಮಿಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನಂತ? ನಾನು ಯಾರು ಬಂದ್ರು ಹೇಳಲ್ಲ ನೀನು ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಂತ. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಇವಾಗ ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ? ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳೋದು ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ. ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೇಡಿ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರು ಪ್ರಾಮಿಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ರೆ ತಿಳಿಸಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಪ್ರಾಮಿಸ್ ಕೀಪ್ ಅಪ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಬಟ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಗೆ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕಳ್ಳನ್ ಬಿಡಿಸ್ದಂಗೆ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ? ಮೆನಿ ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ even we researchers sometimes will undergo this ethical dilemma when we are conducting research. ನಮ್ಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಈ ಫೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಗುಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ, ಮೇ ಬಿ ಟು ದ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ವಿಚ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್, ನಾವು ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾಂಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಅದು ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೇನೋ ಯಾರಿಗೋ ಹರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಈ ಥರ ಎಥಿಕಲ್ ಡೈಲಮಾಸು ಮೆನಿ ಆಫ್ ಅಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಫೇಸ್ ವೆನ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಕಂಡಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಮೇನ್ಲಿ 4 ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಎಥಿಕಲ್ ಡೈಲಮಾಸ್ ಏನು ಅಂದರೆ ಟ್ರಸ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಸಸ್ ಲಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಒಂದು, ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ವರ್ಸಸ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಒಂದು, then short term versus long term benefits, justice versus mercy. That is what way, and we researchers mostly undergo these first 2 types of dilemma, that is trust versus loyalty. Then ಟ್ರಸ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಸಸ್ ಲಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಇವಾಗ ನಾವೇನೋ ಒಂದು ಫಂಡೆಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ನಮಗೆ ಯಾರೋ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನಿಂದ ಫಂಡ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರದ್ದೇನೋ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ನಡೀತಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್. ಈಗ ನಂದು ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ನಡಿ, ನಾನೊಂದು ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನು, ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಫಂಡೆಡ್ ಯು, ಐ ಟೆಲ್ ಯು ಐ ಆಮ್ ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಅ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್, evaluate my program and tell me the effectiveness of the program. I have funded you. What will be the result? Always the researchers, ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಿ, ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ದ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಇಸ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಡೇಟಾ. ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಲಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಟು ದ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಹೂ ಫಂಡ್ಸ್ ಯು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಡೈಲಮಾ, ಟ್ರೂತ್ ವರ್ಸಸ್ ಲಾಯಲ್ಟಿ. ಯು ಸಿ ಆಸ್ ರಿಸರ್ಚರ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಡೂ ಅಂತ. ಟ್ರೂತ್ ಇರಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ? So now I will not go into the details of what ethics is and all that. One more thing, I don't know, further in your next presentations maybe you will also get into publication ethics, means when you are publishing and all that, what you have to look into, especially today in the information era where we have information on our hands. ಮುಂಚೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಅಷ್ಟು ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ. ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿ, ಯು ಮೇ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಯುವರ್ ಗೈಡ್ಸ್ ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ ಒನ್ ರಿವ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್, ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಅರೌಂಡ್ ಫಿಸಿಕಲಿ ಟು ದ ಲೈಬ್ರರೀಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಔಟ್ ಪೀರಿಯಾಡಿಕಲ್ಸ್. ಈ ಪೀರಿಯಾಡಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗಿರ್ತಿತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ, ಯಾರು ಮುಟ್ಟಲ್ಲ, ಧೂಳು ಹಿಡಿದು ಪೀರಿಯಾಡಿಕಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದೊಂದು ತೆಗೆದು ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಟು ಸರ್ಚ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್. ಬಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ಯು ಆರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಏಜ್, ಯು ಪುಟ್ ಒನ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ವರ್ಡ್, you have vast sea of information available to you. Allindinnelgo link sikkute, right? That is what I know. Nowadays one of my students is working on this information seeking behavior. Adu nodta idrene how much strengthened your research is in the information age anta ansutte nange. But at the same time you need to be very careful about these ethical and legal issues when you are conducting or publicizing your research. Okay, I feel I have put I told you I will touch upon your affective side, so I don't know, I feel that you have come to know what an impact an unethical research can have. Okay? So when you are conducting research, try to abide by these code of ethical conduct. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity KSOU has given me to interact with all of you.